Hello friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Mohamad, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be seeing how we can integrate Cosmos DB with our .NET Web API. We're going to be building our Cosmos DB on Azure, and then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a service within our .NET Web API in order for us to communicate with our Cosmos DB. So let's get started. So what I have here is I have my Azure account, as well I have directly created a resource group, and I directly came to the Add Resources Marketplace where I can choose Cosmos DB. So inside my search here, what I want to do is I'm going to search for Cosmos, and we can see it's the first one. Now within this page here, what I want to do is I want to select the second one, Azure Cosmos DB. I'm going to click on create. I'm going to choose Azure Cosmos DB, and it's going to take me to this page. So as we can see here, Azure Cosmos DB supports different types of databases. It supports Postgres, Mongo, Apache Gremlin, tables, as well as Apache Cassandra. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on the non-SQL part. If you're interested in any of the other parts, please let me know and I'll make sure to cover it in that video. So we click on create, and once it goes to create, what we're going to be able to see here is we're going to be prompted to fill in some information. So we're going to be seeing here the account name. I'm going to call this F1 DB test, for example. I can call it whatever I want. And basically an account here is if I have different databases and I want to consolidate them all under a single account, I can do it with that. Do I want availability zones? No, I don't want it. Set them one. The location, I'm going to choose UK South. So let's go down Europe, and you can see UK South. Do I want provisional throughput or serverless? For now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use provisional throughput. I'm not going to go into the serverless, but if you want to do serverless, you can also do that and limit a total amount of throughput for this account. Right now, I don't want to limit it. Review and create. So before we do that, let's just go for different configuration. I don't want any multi-region rights. For the networking, I'm going to say it's open, although you should not make it open. You should make it through a private network. But again, for this simplicity's sake and for the sake of this video, I'm going to make it open. Backup policy, periodic. I don't really care about it. It's a demo application. As for the data encryption, I'm going to utilize Azure encryption keys rather than having to provide my own. For tags, I'm not going to provide any, and then we're going to go to view and create, and then I'm going to click on create. So this should take roughly around a few minutes to complete. Once that has been done, we're going to go to our code and start actually building it. So now that our database has been created successfully, what I want to do is I'm going to go to my resource, and as soon as I go to my resource, it's going to prompt me with this quick start guide. And within this quick start guide, it's asking me to create a container. And basically a container is a table inside my database where I want to store all of the different information. So I'm going to create a new container. So sometimes it gets stuck. So what you need to do is you need to go to the Data Explorer tab, and then here basically what you'll be able to see is a default database and container that MongoDB has created for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. I don't want this database, so I'm just going to confirm this to-do list, and I'm going to click on delete. So now that has been deleted, what I want to do is I'm going to click on new container here, and I'm going to call this F1DB. I'm going to change this to 1000. As for the container ID, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set driver. This is going to be my table basically, and my partition key is going to be the teams. I'm going to partition all of them based on the teams. I'm not going to specify any unique key, and now I'm going to click on OK. This should take also a couple of minutes to finish. Okay, perfect. So now it has been finished. I can see that my F1 database has been created, and underneath it I can see my container, which is going to be my drivers, and we can see everything inside of it. Right now it's empty. It does not contain anything. So if we take a look here, we can see there's nothing inside of it. Okay, perfect. So now that all of the infrastructure has been done from the Azure side, what I want to do is I'm going to go now to my terminal, create my web API, and then connect this to it. So inside my web API, I'm just going to put .NET new web API dash controllers dash, and I'm gonna call it f1 .api. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna open this in Rider. So now that my solution is open up in Rider, we can see it's a very simplistic solution where I have my default weather forecast application and a barebone program.cs file. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first, in order for me to get started, I need to install a package. So inside my terminal, I want to add the following: .NET add package microsoft.azure.cosmos. And this should install the Cosmos library for me. Just to take a few seconds. Now it's finished. If we open it up, let's check our CS proj, and we can see that it has installed version 3.41. Okay, perfect. So now that this has been completed, the next step is I need to add some configuration into my app settings, and this configuration is going to be my connection string and my connection information that my application will utilize in order for it to connect to Cosmos on Azure. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add a connection string section, and I'm going to call this Cosmos DB, and basically here we want to specify the key that I want to connect to. So if I go back to my web browser and if I go to keys here, we'll be able to see that I have a URI that I can actually utilize in order for me to connect with it. So I'm just going to copy this URI and I'm going to put it back in the Rider. Perfect. This is the first one. The second item, now I want to specify different configurations configuration for Cosmos. So I'm gonna call it Cosmos config. And here what I want to do is I want to specify all of the different other configurations. So for example, what is going to be my security key, which is going to be authenticating with Cosmos. So I'm going to put primary key, and this also I can get through the same site. So I can, as you can see here, I have my primary key. If I click on view, I'm going to copy this, and if I'm going to go back to Rider, I can paste it here. Then the other items, I want to specify here my database name, and if we go back to Cosmos, my database name is going to be my F1DB, so that's going to be my database name, so F1DB. And as for my container name, which is going to be my table, it's going to be called drivers, so we can see here it's called driver. Perfect. So now I have specified all of the different configurations that Cosmos will need. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating a new folder, which is going to be called models. So inside my root directory, I'm going to create a folder called models, and inside this directory I'm going to create a new class, and this class is going to be driver, and this is going to be the logical entity representation of my non-SQL DB object. So what do I want to do, or what do I want to have inside my object? So first of all, I want to have a string for the ID of the driver, and I need to specify my JSON property, and the property name is going to be ID, and I'm gonna make this equal string.empty. Perfect. So what else do I need? I need the driver's name. So again, string name as well equals string.empty. And I'm gonna need two more things. This is gonna be an integer, which is gonna be my driver number. And lastly, I'm gonna have my partition key, which is gonna be the team. So property string team as well equals string.empty, and I'm going to specify also my JSON property name equal team. Perfect. So now that I have this, now this is going to be my Cosmos representation of my tables. So I'm going to be utilizing this in order for me to do all of my CRUD operation within Cosmos. So once I have done this, inside my root directory here, I'm going to add a new directory which is called services, and inside the services folder I'm going to be creating an interface, and this interface I'm going to call it iDriver repository. And within this interface I'm going to specify all of the different actions that I want to do within this CRUD operation, and it's going to be the normal CRUD add, edit, delete, get all, and get by ID. So we'll start by get all. So we're going to put task enumerable driver, and then we're gonna say get drivers async. Let's fix this reference. Okay, great. Now we're gonna put task driver get, let's make a space, get driver by ID, get driver async actually, and we're here gonna require an integer, an ID, and because we need the partition key, we're gonna get the team. The other one is gonna be driver create driver async. All we're gonna do is gonna pass the driver, then we're gonna have a task for updating a driver, which is gonna be also, it's gonna require an ID, and then we're gonna take the driver, and lastly we're gonna take the deleting of the driver, which is gonna be task. I'm gonna say boolean delete the driver, and it's gonna take also a string ID and string tname. Perfect. So this is my interface. Now I want to actually create my implementation for this interface. So I'm going to go again to my services. I'm going to call this driver repository. And now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to inherit from the iDriver repository. And it's going to complain because I did not implement any of the item members there. So I'm just going to implement them all. And now we can see everything here has been implemented. So let's start adding the actual implementation for these. We're going to be starting by actually defining the Cosmos implementation so we can create a connection to our Cosmos from here. So we're going to start by initializing a container. So we're going to put private read-only container underscore container. Then we're going to utilize the construction injection in order for us to initialize it. So what it's going to require, it's going to require the connection string, and then it's going to require the key. Then it's going to require the database name, and finally it's going to require the container. So this is the item that needs to be injected into this in order for us to be utilizing it. And now what we can do is we can create a Cosmos client equal to new Cosmos client, and here as we can see it can ask for the endpoint, and this is going to be the connection, and then it's going to ask for the key, and this is going to be the key that we have here. And I'm just going to define an empty set of options. We can put anything that we want here. I'm just going to leave it empty just to showcase that we can actually add some configuration to this. Once I created my client, now I want to actually get my container, so I'm going to put underscore container equal Cosmos client dot get container, and here what does it take? It takes the database name, so let's put database name, and then it's going to take my container name and that's basically allow me to directly connect from my .NET application to my Azure container, and then within these 2 lines of code. And as we can see, it's very easy for me to initialize this. Now the other work that I need to do is I need to actually configure this within my startup.cs, but I'm gonna do this at the end. So once I have done this, now I need to actually build my 5 implementations. We're gonna start by the get drivers async. So first of all, I'm gonna make this async. I'm gonna remove this. And then what do we need to do? So first of all, I need to specify my query. So I'm gonna put var query equal underscore container dot get item query iterator, and then here I need to specify what is the response type. I need to say it's going to be a driver, and then what I need to do here is I want to actually define my query, so I can put a new query definition, and then basically here what I can do, I can specify my SQL, because Cosmos DB actually can take SQL, and basically through that I can actually iterate through my database, and this is a pretty cool thing. So here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put select. Let's make this on a new line. So I'm just gonna put here select star from C, and this basically it means it's gonna select everything from the container, and here it needs to be item query iterator, not stream. So once I have done this, now what I want to do is I'm gonna specify all of the results equal of a new list of drivers. So then what I do is once I execute the query, I want to basically loop through as the more that has results, I want to add stuff to my actual result list. So we can do this by simply by saying while query dot has more result, it means that the query is still extracting data from my Cosmos DB. I'm gonna get the response, so we can say var response equal query dot read next async, because it's gonna, every time it has more result, it's gonna read the next information, bring it back, and then it's gonna store it inside this response. And then once I have done this, I'm gonna put results dot add range, and here it's gonna be my response dot to list. And this basically, let's enable this. Okay, first we need to make sure this is awaited. Okay, perfect. So now I have done this, what I'm doing is basically every time I extract information, I'm taking my response, which is gonna be a feed response from drivers, and then basically I'm converting it to a list, I'm adding it. And once we have done that, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna return my results. Pretty straightforward. And this is how we basically extract everything from my table. So basically first we define a query, we define a result set, and then basically we're doing a loop based on that query itself. We're saying if it has more result, extract them and basically put them on the list for me. So for Cosmos, we know for extracting data from Cosmos, we know how it's done now. Now let's see how we can get a single driver, and this is gonna be a bit simpler. So first of all, I'm gonna make this async, and I'm gonna remove all of this. I'm gonna put try catch, and then here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put var response equal await underscore container dot read item async, and here is gonna ask me what item do I want to read, which is gonna be the driver, and then I'm gonna tell it that it needs to get it based on the ID and the partition key, which is gonna be the team. So I'm gonna specify ID. I'm gonna say again for the partition key, new partition key, and this is gonna be the team. Great. So now I have this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put return response, and in case everything goes wrong, I'm just gonna return null for now. Again, this is not the way to do it, but just to make sure it's simple enough. Now let's see how we can create a new driver. So again, I'm gonna make this async. I'm gonna remove this. So I'll put var response equal await underscore container dot create item async, and here it's gonna ask me what is the item that I want to create. I'm gonna say the driver, and then I'm gonna specify my partition key, and this is gonna be driver dot team, and then all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna return response dot result dot resource, and that should be it for my created driver. Now all we have to do is the last 2 functionalities, which is gonna be update a driver and deleting a driver. So let's start with the update. Let's remove this. Let's make this as an async. It's gonna be almost similar to the create, so we're gonna put var response equal await underscore container dot update item async. What is the item that I want to update, which is gonna be here the driver, and it's gonna take as well a new partition key, which is gonna be driver dot. We could have removed the ID, yeah, but let's keep it for now, it's fine. I'm gonna return response dot resource, and the last thing I want to do is delete. Pretty straightforward. Gonna make this async. I'm gonna put var response equal await underscore container dot delete item async driver, and here is gonna take the ID, and it's gonna take a new partition key, which is gonna be the team. So what I can do here, I can say if response not equal to null, or actually response dot resource not equal to null, I can say this has been returned true, else return false. Perfect. So once I have done this, now this is going to be my full implementation for my driver repository, and we can see it's a pretty straightforward one. Now what I need to do is I need to actually go to my program.cs and actually inject this. So before the builder.build, what I want to do here is I'm going to inject my configuration. So I'm going to put the following: builder.services.add scoped. And here we're going to specify my interface, which is going to be the iDriver inter repository and the driver repository. And this is going to be the interesting part where I'm going to extract information from my app settings and basically inject them here. So I'm going to put x equal new driver repository. Let's put this on a new line. And here basically what I want to do is I want to specify or extract information out of my app settings. So I'm going to be relying on the builder.configuration.get connection string, and this is going to be my connection string for my Cosmos, so we can call it Cosmos DB. So I'm just going to add it here. The next item was going to be my key, so I'm going to put again builder.configuration, and then here what I want to do is I'm going to go to my app settings. I'm going to take my Cosmos config section. I'm going to add it here. And then I'm going to specify that I need to extract my key out of it, which is going to be my primary key. And I'm going to add here. And what I'm going to do, just to make it simpler, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to repeat it for the database name and then for my container name. And just updating them. So my database name, I'm going to copy it here, put it here. And for my container name, I'm going to copy it here and add it here. Great. So now that I have done this and basically I'm able to extract everything from my configuration, the last step that I want to do is I want to actually test it out. So I'm going to create a new controller called the drivers controllers, and I'm going to basically initialize it from here. I'm just going to copy these and let's fix those reference, and I'm going to inherit from controller base. And now basically what I want to do is I want to inject my driver repository here. So I'm going to put private read only I driver repository, going to call underscore driver repository, and I'm going to initialize this through my constructor. So I'm just going to copy paste this, put it here, and then say underscore driver repository equal driver repository. Perfect. So now my skeleton for my controller is there. Now all I need to do is just set it up. So this is going to be also pretty straightforward. We're gonna start by get all. So we're gonna put HTTP get. I'm gonna say public async task action result, and now it's gonna be a get. And here we're gonna put var results equal underscore driver repository. Oops, we need to make sure it's await dot get drivers async, and we're gonna return okay with the results. Pretty straightforward. Now for the get driver by ID, we're gonna put HTTP get, but we're gonna be asking them for the ID, and then we're gonna put private public async task action result, and we're gonna say get as well. And here we're gonna ask for the string for the ID and string for the team, and then we're gonna put here var result equal await underscore driver repository dot get driver, and the driver here is gonna ask for the ID and the team name, and once that's done I'm gonna return okay the result. So now we have 3 to go, and the next step is gonna be creating a new driver, and it's gonna be, if you can imagine, a HTTP post. It's gonna be public async task action result. It's gonna be post, and here we're gonna take from body driver and driver, and now here what I'm gonna do is gonna put var result equal underscore await underscore driver repository dot create a driver async, and it's gonna ask me here to get the driver, and let's fix this reference. And now that I have my driver here created, what I want to do is I'm gonna be returning the created at. So return created at action, and here what I want to do is I want to specify the information to get back the driver. So I can say name of cat. Now I need to specify also the ID, so the ID equal driver.id. So we can put result.id, and lastly the object itself, which is going to be result. Perfect. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to specify my put. So I'm going to put HTTP put. It's going to also ask for the ID, so let's add it here. Public async task action result. We're going to say it's going to ask for a string ID, and similarly from body driver, and we're gonna put var result again equal await underscore repository dot update driver, and it's gonna ask for the ID and the driver, and lastly we're gonna return okay with the results. And for my last item here is gonna be my HTTP delete, which is also gonna ask for the ID, and we're gonna put public async task action result delete, and it's gonna take a string of the ID and string for the team. And similar to the before, var result equal await underscore driver repository dot delete driver. We're gonna specify the ID and the team. And lastly, I'm just gonna say return, actually, if result, so it means everything is fine. I'm gonna return no content, else I'm gonna return bad request. Perfect. So this basically summarized my full integration with Cosmos. I have my controller which is utilizing my services, and within my services here, if I click on it, I can see how I can actually connect with Cosmos through my Cosmos client and connecting to a container and basically execute all of the commands that I want. So let's test this in action. I'm gonna run this and I'm gonna go to my web browser, and now we can see all of my different endpoints. So I'm gonna start by get the drivers. I know this one should be empty because there's nothing there, and we can see we have an empty response. Now I'm gonna post a driver. I'm gonna say ID equal 1, name, let's say Mohamad, Lawand, driver number 23, team, Mercedes 1, AMG, Petronas, execute. We got back at 201, this has been created, so if I click on get all, now I should see my information here. Perfect. Now if I change my ID to 2 and put here, let's say Lewis Hamilton 44, Mercedes F1 only for this season. Now we go down, being created, execute all. We'll be able to see that all of both drivers are here. If I go to get driver and if I specify here the ID 1 and team, let's copy it, it's easier. Execute. I should get my information now. Okay, great. Now let's see if I want to update this. So I'm gonna put here, let's take Lewis's information and update it. So now we go here and this is gonna be Ferrari for the next season, and the ID is going to be equal to 2, execute 200, and if I click on get all, now we should see this from Mercedes to Ferrari. Perfect, we have it here. We have a small bug, we are adding rather than deleting, so let's check this out. If we go here to driver repository, update the driver is doing an upsert, so let's check the controller, and for the put, I'm putting update driver async, so that should be fine. Let's check it here. Oh, because it's a different team and a different partition key, so it has created it, so that's completely fine. If I change here the name right now, for example, let's say Lewis, from Lewis to Sir Lewis, now this should work. Click on execute, we got a 200. Now if I come here and I click on execute, we should be able to see 3 and 1 with Sir Lewis. So when you're ever trying to update the partition key, it will create a new one rather than deleting the original one, so you need to make sure you delete the original one and then update to the new one. And now lastly, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the delete. Again, try it out. ID, let's say 1, team, let's take again Mercedes, and let's put them here. Now click on execute, and we got a bad request. Let's check it out. Although it has been deleted, I think there's a issue with the logic here, so let's check the logic for the delete. So this should have been different, so here it should not, if it's, let's see how this is working. So this is the mistake here. And the driver repository, we're saying if it's not return true, should be the difference. So here it should be false and this should be true. Now that we have fixed this, now we know everything is working as it should be. Okay, perfect. So in this video, what we have done is we have seen how we can actually integrate our .NET Web API with Cosmos, how we can create a full CRUD operation with Cosmos, understand the different ways we can utilize it, and we can see how easy it is for us to actually build a service that communicates with a non-SQL database, which is globally available. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It will really help the channel. As well, if you'd like to support me, please consider supporting me on Patreon or buying me a coffee. With that said, thank you very much for watching and have a great day.